Normally, when a person survives a genocide, they do not, a few months later, look around at their safe new country, sigh, and think, you know what? I actually miss it back home. I think I'm going to head back to the genocide. And yet, that is exactly what is happening with Donald Trump's special refugee program for white South Africans. Reuters is reporting that several of the Afrikaners who arrived this year as refugees, fleeing what the White House has insisted is an active genocide, have already packed up and gone back to South Africa. Back to the genocide. Look, I love South Africa. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. Wonderful people, amazing wildlife, and just some of the most beautiful landscape I've ever seen. And no, despite me road tripping over 3,000 miles through the good, the bad, the corrupt, the populous, even the places that said, don't stop here, it's a high crime area, I saw no signs of white genocide. But if it were taking place and I fled from it, I know I would not go back to genocide. Let me explain the backstory here. You may remember that early in 2025, Trump froze the entire United States refugee program, the whole thing. Under the Biden administration, we admitted about 125,000 people a year, war survivors, persecuted folks, families who have waited years through security vetting. And Donald Trump slammed the door shut. But he cut exactly one small hole in it, just big enough for one group. White Afrikaner families from South Africa, all based on fake videos shared by Elon Musk. The cap for refugees this year got slashed by 94% down to 7,500, and the cap goes primarily to these Afrikaners. From October through April, about 6,000 refugees were admitted to the United States. There were 3 from Afghanistan, and the rest were these white South Africans. The State Department is reportedly building the capacity to process 4,500 Afrikaner applications a month, which is more per month than the entire planet's refugee cap for the year. And for the genocide itself, AfriForum, an Afrikaner advocacy group, they are no friend of the South African government. They logged 49 murders of Afrikaners over a recent year. But in the same year, there were more than 27,000 other murders across South Africa. So this supposed genocide accounts for about 0.2% of the country's killings. The Institute for Security Studies in Pretoria looked at the numbers and concluded flatly that the idea of a white genocide in South Africa is completely false. White South Africans make up roughly 2.7 million people out of 62 million in the country, and that 2.7 million owns about 75% of the country's private farmland, and they hold most of the well-paying jobs. The senior corporate jobs out there are held by white South Afrikaners. While apartheid is officially over there, the shadows of it still loom over the entire country. Reverend Nantambi Naomi Tutu, the daughter of Desmond Tutu, said that if white South Africans are experiencing a genocide, then it is an enviable one, because they are the most economically powerful minority in the country, and they've been recast as victims. And now we are handing them the only open door in American immigration. But when they get here, they are realizing that right now the American dream sucks. On top of all the economic strife that we're feeling, these folks are coming here to an even worse situation. Some of them went to Ohio, where Ohio made new driver's license rules for lawful residents who aren't citizens and don't hold a green card, putting them through a process that's going to cost about $500 extra, and it'll have a 9-month process just to get a driver's license. So it's much harder for them to transit, much harder for them to get jobs. And there are reports that are showing these South Africans are facing safety concerns in Colorado and housing issues in Michigan. And because of that, some have actually returned to South Africa to the alleged genocide. And where did this fairy tale of genocide even come from? Tucker Carlson, he spent years pumping it on Fox News, and then Elon Musk, who was born in South Africa, started posting it to his hundreds of millions of followers. And he claimed that a major South African party is actively promoting white genocide using fake or misattributed videos. And that news traveled the usual route, from a fringe website, to social media, to cable, to the Oval Office. And that's when Donald Trump used that information to ambush the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa came to the United States for a meeting, and in that meeting, Donald Trump dimmed the lights and rolled a video. And he even printed out pictures from this video to prove the slaughter. Tiny problem. This gruesome footage he used, that he said was from South African white farmers being killed, wasn't even from South Africa. The evidence of the genocide doesn't exist. Yet Donald Trump has built an entire foreign policy around this fantasy. He cut off the United States' aid to South Africa over it. He skipped the G20 summit in Johannesburg, announcing from the Oval Office that he wouldn't go because of the country's policies on the extermination of people.
Can you explain to Americans why it's appropriate to welcome white Afrikaners here when other refugees like Afghans, Venezuelans, Haitians have all had their protected status revoked?
Well, this is a group, NBC, that is truly fake news. They ask a lot of questions in a very pointed way. They're not questions, they're statements. A lot of people are very concerned with regard to South Africa, and that's really the purpose of the meeting, and we'll see how that turns out. But we have many people that feel they're being persecuted, and they're coming to the United States. So we take from many locations if we feel there's persecution or genocide going on. And we had a lot of people. I must tell you, Mr. President, we have had a tremendous number of people, especially since they've seen this. Generally, they're white farmers, and they're fleeing South Africa, and it's a very sad thing to see.
And I am still in touch with many people of all walks of life in South Africa. And they continually tell me how much they love Russia and China because they are building roads and dams and investing in infrastructure. But the United States, they supported Donald Trump previously because they liked his strength. But now, only pockets of these white Afrikaners are supporting Donald Trump and his policies. And while that one door is being held open for the group that arguably needs it the least, the actual refugees that need our help are being locked out, like the Afghans who worked alongside American troops and now have targets on their backs. The Rohingya, facing documented mass violence in Myanmar. These are people who went through years of vetting, who are fleeing the real thing. And Trump slammed the door on them. Yet these privileged farmers get the welcome committee from our country. And by the way, Donald Trump, he's not slowing this down. His plan is to raise that refugee ceiling to 17,500 with the extra 10,000 spots going to these Afrikaners, leaving everyone else standing in the cold. And while they won't say it out loud, the point of this was always this whites first immigration policy wearing a humanitarian disguise. And that's why I'm going to ask you to subscribe, because we are going to keep pulling off that disguise and show you the real numbers every time Donald Trump tries to pump the fake ones.